Hello again. I'm Tony, and I'm studying to take the LSAT in August of this year, 2021. It is now June 14th, and thanks for coming along for the ride to look at what I've been doing and hopefully learn a little something for yourself and maybe feedback to me something that would help me. So here we are. Here's my study calendar that I'm using to study for the LSAT. Move myself aside here. We are now beyond this diagnostic test. I'm sorry, I didn't take this diagnostic test too. I got to this multilinear games point and then took a diagnostic test the other day. Got a great score for me, 152. So I'm really excited about the advancement. That's 11-point jump from the week before, so that's great. Amazing. I talked about praying, and I asked people to pray for me. I even put a little thing up on Facebook asking my friends to pray for me to help me figure out how to take this test. And I firmly believe that God is the author of logic, and if God is the author of logic, He'll teach me how to figure out how to take this test. All right, so had a tutoring session today, and I want to grab out just a couple of notes. Actually, I'll put up the notes from my tutoring session here. Kind of what we went through. Basically, what I do with my tutoring sessions is I come up with some questions that I have for Chris on different things that I'm dealing with. Sometimes specific questions that I came across from different question types, and sometimes just general advice. Like for instance, this piece of advice here, he says that he had mentioned that I should not do all the drill questions, and a drill question looks like this. When you're in a study format, or I'm sorry, a study section of LSAT Max, you will encounter study questions. So they'll have a video for you to watch and then questions. And Chris's advice was that I not do all of these questions after doing the lesson. Chris's advice was for me to do 10 questions or so and then move on to the next question type, because he wants me to get through all the material in this calendar so that I'm up to just practice and review. You can see the calendar has you going through different question types and different parts of the course. Back up, Buster. And then at a certain point, you kind of start doing a little more review here and there, and then a few more of these different types of questions or lessons, and or review and practice tests. And by the end of the course, you're doing all practice and review. And so he wants me in this practice and review as quickly as possible so that I can really focus. And that would be, at the end, 3 to 4 practice tests a week. So that's a lot of work, but I'm ready for it. So I'm trying to build a foundation for that now. You can see my chart behind me on that side is the triangle that it represents your accuracy, and on that side is the triangle that represents speed. So as you move along from the beginning on screen right, I guess, looking left, yeah, on that side, that's where you start and that's where you end over here. So the idea is that you're learning all the concepts over here. Boy, that's hard to do. This way, yeah, learning all the concepts and then picking up speed, and then by the time you get here, you're not learning as much and you're just doing a lot more speed stuff over here. Anyway, so all that to say, I need to be getting into the speed because I'm actually doing pretty good work when I'm actually answering the questions. I have a significant amount of questions that I don't actually get to, but this is the score on my last practice test here. You can see that when I actually answered the question, this is my accuracy rate on the first 15 questions, because that's about as much as I'm absolutely getting through on all 3 sections. So I just decided, okay, I'm making it through 15 questions on all 3 sections. Let's look at my accuracy rate on just those questions, because if you look at the accuracy rate for the whole test, that's not a good gauge as I'm answering the last portion of the questions by guessing, so that I maybe pick up a few points by chance. And you do, actually. This accuracy rate 15, you can see, is on this last test significantly better than the overall score. So when I'm actually able to guess, except for reading comprehension, I'm not doing so hot on that. When I'm actually able to address the question, I'm doing pretty good. So if I can just bam my speed up and not lose that accuracy, then I'll be in pretty good shape to hit my goal score of 170 if I can get it. All right, so that brings me to looking at the tutoring session. So as I said, sometimes I'll have different questions for him, like how many drill questions to do, and he gives me advice on how much I should do. And the one thing that I came across was reading speed. So since I'm not making it through most or a significant portion of the end of each of the sections, I thought, well, especially with reading comprehension, the reason for that is because I just don't read fast enough. So I took some reading speed tests online, and as a general, I took quite a few of them, and on average, I'm an average reader. I'm an average speed reader. I know how to scan read or speed read from a standpoint of just reading the first and last paragraph and skimming the middle, or first and last sentence and skimming the middle. I know how to do that. But I don't really like doing that as much because I don't feel I get as much out of whatever I'm reading. That's fine if I'm, reading something that is not for pleasure, or that I don't. It's not really a lot of, if I'm reading a news article or something, I'm not really, there won't be a test. So that's fine for that kind of reading, but for the reading that I wanted to do on the LSAT, I want to do good reading because you really have to appreciate what's being said in order to answer the deep questions they ask you, or the complicated, complex questions they ask you. And so I thought, well, let me just increase my reading speed. Let me get into a speed reading course and start learning about that. So since I have a tutor, I was able to ask him. I said, hey, Chris, what's your experience with people learning how to read? And I could see him nodding as I was going through my spiel about what I thought about speed reading, that I thought if I could read faster, I could actually get through the whole test, and maybe that would help me. And he said that he is also an average reader as far as his reading speed goes, and that he has experience not with students that he's tutored, but with friends that were asking his advice when he was taking the LSAT before he was a tutor. They asked him, hey, what about reading speed, and what about taking these courses? And he told them that he thought it would be a waste of time, and it turned out to be the case in each of the cases where people tried to take speed reading courses or increase their reading speed. They were unsuccessful in increasing their LSAT score based upon that. So that effort did not increase their readings, their score on the LSAT. So he did reiterate his advice, which he had given before, which is to focus on logical reasoning and logic games. We discussed a little bit about the way that we read, and he and I are both. He's contemplative as well. He's actually a philosophy major, so we kind of go on that same train. He said, no, don't change the way that you read, because when I read contemplatively. I appreciate, like somebody who's maybe a wine connoisseur or something. Just stop doing. Just hear nasty gooey sounds going on down here. Just wanted to make sure that was okay. All right, so he said, don't stop doing that, but temper your contemplation. So instead of trying to stop contemplating and just not really appreciate what you're reading, focus your contemplation on what the big idea of the passage is. Avoid tangential thinking, and find time savers on how you process questions in reading comprehension, being decisive in question anticipation. So great advice from Chris. I'm very happy that I purchased some tutoring from him. That's really helpful for me in my journey. And I know that LSAT Max has scholarships available. So if something that you'd really like to get, but you may have some obstacles getting the money together to do that, I know they have scholarships available. Can't hurt to ask, and it's really valuable. So with all that, that is my progress from last week and what I did today. And what I plan to do now is go back to reviewing my test. Chris gave me some advice on how I'm supposed to do that, and then move forward with more lessons and practice questions and get into it today. So hope we're going to knock it out. Maybe get another gain of 5 or so points this week. If I can get 2 or 3 points, I'll be real happy with that. So you guys have a great day. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and comment. And I really appreciate you being with me on this journey. Crusty LSAT.